Welcome to What the Health? Where anything health is fair game as we tackle the trends and bust the myths about health and wellness. Here are your hosts, Dr. Dan and Angela Toro.
And welcome to another episode of What the Health. I am Dr. Dan here with my co-host,
Angela. Welcome back, everybody. As you know, at this point, we are here for informational purposes only, in no way offering individualized medical advice. Always talk to your trusted healthcare provider before making changes to your lifestyle. So with that being said, I think this is a good one for this time of year, so we're doing a gut check.
Gut check time.
Talking about listening to your gut, which we hear about all the time, and, you know, the world, just listen to your gut, like that gut feeling when something's right or something's wrong, but
I have a gentleman in my men's group who gave us the acronym. GUT stands for God's Undeniable Truth.
Okay.
Gut check. So, so this is all about checking in on your gut. And I think part of this that stemmed this discussion was my very interesting story over the last 6 months of my health crises. So
this was definitely a very personal personal one.
So I in 2023, so we're at the beginning of 2024 now. 2023, I had two pretty serious illnesses that just kind of came out of nowhere. But when you look back on it, I'll be very blunt and vulnerable. I was not taking care of myself. I was not exercising regularly. I was, other than just some walking on a daily basis. But, between the busyness of practice and the busyness of 3 kids and also trying to, help a nonprofit organization get up off of the ground, like they're just excuse after excuse that I hear from all of our patients all of the time. And, and sometimes those of us who are in the healing profession take care of ourselves last. So, I was not making myself a priority, but what happened and I think I shared this story on another podcast, didn't I? Or maybe it was just on a Facebook post, but basically I started getting it was middle of June, right before we were leaving for a week vacation. I had extreme fatigue and flu-like aches and pains to the point that I never had felt them in my life. And in fact, the Sunday before our last week in the office before we left for work, I couldn't get out of bed. It was that bad. And I'm never like that. If I get the flu, I'm down maybe 24 hours and then I'm right back to it. Even about a COVID or two, it was like, I'm down for 24, 36 hours and right back to it. But I mean, that was, pain and fatigue like I never experienced it. And, again, being the, very pushing practitioner, I showed up at the office that week, pushed through that week. It was a week before we're leaving for vacation. So, of course, it's a busy week. And you saw me on the floor in the back a couple times because it was like I had to adjust a couple people. All right, go to the back. But I pushed through and I started feeling a little bit better. I was being adjusted like crazy because I was getting adjusted almost every day from a colleague of ours. And, I was starting to feel a little bit better as the week went on. But then after the fatigue and pain started to dissipate a little bit, then I was starting to get all these random rashes, like this 1-inch purple rash, these welts that showed up, looked like I was hit with a baseball or racquetball or something. And they'd show up on my stomach. They'd be on the back of my arm, back of my legs, just very randomly. And it was kind of migrating around. It would show up in an area. Those would start to fade and they'd show up in another area. That was basically going into the start of vacation and then, happened all throughout vacation.
Exactly what you want for a beach vacation.
I know, right? I'm like, I didn't care. Yeah, I was like, Aaron, we're getting to the island and, I'll just lay on the beach, whatever. So once that rash started showing up again that week when it was just aches and pains, I'm like, maybe it's just a really severe case of, flu or whatever. But once that rash started showing up, I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is something a little bit more and, severe. And, the first thing that popped into our mind is the possibility of Lyme. And Lyme is a tick-borne illness. If you are in the northeastern part of the United States, you are very familiar with Lyme disease. But, I had been bit by a tick 18 months, a year and a half prior to those symptoms showing up, and didn't think anything of it. The tick had been, wedged, and, I pulled it out. I didn't have it tested, hindsight probably should have, but, didn't have any symptoms after that. And, again, that's what you kind of watch for. Like if I saw a rash or something show up, nothing showed up. And so didn't think anything of it. And then, again, going a year and a half later, coming out of the pandemic, again, not taking care of myself, now all of a sudden, systems are starting to crash. And it was to the point then, the rash started going away. But then when we got back from vacation, in that first week back from vacation, that's when I started getting the joint pain.
Yes. Sorry, I'm laughing. It's funny now.
It's just laughing at me.
I'm laughing now. It was not funny at the time. It was very, very scary. But I was just thinking about how we were trying to help our mother move a table.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Because that was a Tuesday or not office day.
And Dan and I were on the bottom handing it up to our mom and his oldest son on the top deck, and he got his hands to about his chest and was like, I can't lift anymore. And I was like, okay, I guess this is why I have been working out.
That's right.
As I have to overhead press this table by myself.
You did good.
Oh my gosh. But yes, it was very, very concerning.
And it was a joint pain, my shoulders, it started like on, I thought I had injured my elbow on vacation. And again, we were doing a lot of activity with the kids. I thought I might have just injured it, but I was getting a lot of joint pain in my inside elbow. But then it was moving to my shoulders. And then I woke up, I think the day after that, I think it was Wednesday, I woke up and my one thumb was twice the size of my other thumb, just extremely swollen. I mean, I really felt like I was an arthritic, individual in their 90s. Like I could not move. And then, again, continuing to push through, I got to Friday, and I woke up Friday morning and I could not lift my arms. I jumped in the shower. I couldn't lift my arms above my head to dry my hair. I could not grab my pants to pull them up from my ankles. That's how painful my hands were. And so when I came down, very comically now, when I came down the stairs with my pants down around my ankles, and my wife is like, how in the heck are you going to go to the office?
That's when I get the phone call.
Cancel the morning.
Cancel the morning, and Dan can't put pants on.
He is going to the doctor. So we had a pretty good idea that it was Lyme at that point. And when I went to and talked to the physician assistant, she listened to my story. She heard me out. She did a fantastic job. She heard me out, and she really, and I had done a blood test earlier that week, and we were waiting on results. But after hearing, the discussion, she agreed with me that it was probably Lyme, and it was probably time to start going on medication. That was the first medication that crossed my lips, if you don't count alcohol, that crossed my lips in 20 years. And boy, was I screaming for it at that point. And it was amazing how quickly it kicked in.
An antibiotic works when you need it.
I was 70% better within 24 hours, 90% better by the end of the weekend. It was amazing how quickly, that it kicked in, to resolve that. So, and again, when you're like myself and you don't take an antibiotic for every little sneeze and sniffle, which you can develop a resistance to, different bacteria, man, it kicked in and worked. And so I continue that process. Now, again, for any of you who are familiar with Lyme, it's very much a systemic. That's why you get all these random symptoms, and it can come and go even after you take an antibiotic. It can, really kind of lie dormant in your system and your tissues. And so I was good for a couple months, and then, what was it? November. It was the day after Halloween.
It was right after Halloween.
It was the day after Halloween. So, we're looking at 5 months later, I woke up, and again, I had like these really sore lymph nodes behind my ear. And again, it felt like, maybe I had some TMJ issues. Maybe I was getting a little bit of a sinus infection because I was getting some pain up around, like under my eye, above my teeth. So I thought maybe I was getting a sinus infection, which I've had them before in the past. So again, as that week progressed, I was getting adjusted, and I had another seminar. I was doing a lot of traveling. I had a seminar that weekend. So again, the pain was just kind of there. It was really, it was on my scalp and everything. But then, I traveled and I went on a seminar, and then the Sunday when I was coming home, I developed this rash on the top of my head. And as that rash progressed the following week, it was all one-sided and it got extremely inflamed. And as I, again, hindsight 2020 and putting all the symptoms together, it ended up being shingles. And shingles, again, is a chicken pox virus that has lied dormant in your system. And shingles is very much an it's very much an immune deficiency,
generally stress.
Yeah, it's stress induced. Your immune system is suppressed, and so the virus that is lying dormant in your system now recognizes that all the security is down. So boom, now it pops out. So looking back on it, it makes perfect sense that flared up. Partly because my system was down after, having the Lyme flare up over the winter, or over the summertime. So, long story short, much of this can develop from a very poor, gut microbiome. And that's what we wanted to talk a little bit more about, what I have done, in the last couple weeks to get my gut back on track. But it started with the testing. And we went to a practitioner that we trusted in the area that does a lot of, blood and stool sample testing, and practices more functional integrative nutrition. He is a chiropractor by trade, but has moved more into the functional integrative functional testing. So we tested for stool, and we tested for blood. 2 tests that I could do on my own at home, which I thought is fantastic. Again, rather than going into a medical doctor and, just waiting for the blood draws and all this other stuff. You get a lot more, again, functional testing, not just the blanket. Oh, here's what's in your blood. And, we're not even going to tell you, oh, that looks good. That looks good.
They just tell you high, low,
high, low.
Normal.
Yeah. It doesn't tell you anything about what it means or how to resolve it, right? Yeah. Without just taking a medication. So sure enough, after, I did the blood and stool sample testing, I found some sensitivities that my body was sensitive to. It's not considered an allergy, but it's a food sensitivity test. And, my top ones were peanuts and wheat and cod fish were like the top 3 that considered +3, and +4 reaction is the highest. And then, of course, +2 is still considered reactive, but those are all the sad ones that ended up being like, beef, salmon, bacon, I think raspberry. I think there was a type of cheese in there, but, all of these, minor sensitivities. So now I'm doing this elimination diet to basically take that out, but also eating extremely clean, and again, stuff that we should be doing 90% of the time.
The stuff we always talk about.
Yes,
too.
but again, just definitely have gotten away from it and not making it a priority. But knowing how adaptable the system is, within 2 days of actually implementing, the diet and the elimination, massive difference in energy level, massive difference in, how my stomach is feeling. And again, I know I'm going to be losing weight on this. Again, not my main goal, but just making sure, there are ways to test and go deeper into what you should or could or not be eating, based on some of these sensitivity testings to your body. And so, the individual that just has, one healthcare practitioner, doesn't have a healthcare practitioner on their health team, that was really part of my messaging is just, we need to be looking at the body in multiple different directions, to make sure that you're keeping it as healthy as possible. So,
yeah, I think that's interesting too. You mentioned the energy level, because what people don't, we're finding more and more how, probably in the last decade, there's been so much that has come out about how important the gut is for overall health and wellness. So not just, obviously, we think about, we've all had digestive issues, from time to time, a stomach bug or, this, that, or whatever, our stomach's been off, but
travel or when constipated,
or eat something that goes right through us. Quick. Yeah. It's like, we've all experienced that, but not realizing like on a day-to-day basis how much that gut microbiome affects everything. And, they're finding more and more with especially the gut-brain connection. So, connections to depression, to Alzheimer's, to, focus and alertness. So, talking about the brain fog and things like that, where, stuff that we used to think was brain issued, and it is, but so much of that is coming from the gut. And so that's what I always find is like the most interesting thing is, when you eat really clean and you notice that difference, it's just, that's not something that people tend to think about, when you're having a lot of brain fog or, mental health issues or focus issues, we tend to want to think about, kind of focus up on the brain, but sometimes really just getting getting to the root of it, which a lot of the times is coming from the gut, can make such a big difference on that overall energy level, immune system. And our guts are so sensitive to everything. You figure anything that we ingest that has to go through the digestive tract is affecting it in some way, shape, or form. So if you're taking, everybody knows, antibiotics wipes out your gut health because it's, it's an antibiotic. It's not differentiating, it's wiping out the bacteria. So, it's pretty well known that, after an antibiotic, you need to take a good probiotic to rebuild that gut health. But, what people don't realize is that pretty much every medication does that. So,
because it's chemically based.
Advil, if you're taking that regularly, if you're taking any prescription medication, hormonal birth control, like all of these things that are taken on a daily basis are wiping out that gut microbiome in the same way. Our diets, our stress levels, lack of adequate sleep and restorative sleep. So all of these things are, negatively impacting the gut. And so,
well, you have to look at it too. I mean, the one thing that I remember learning when I was in school is, is your gut on the inside or the outside of your body?
Inside? Oh, well, you mean, okay, I see what you're saying.
So the tube, your mouth to anus is one long tube, and technically what is on the inside of that tube is not come in contact with your body yet. And so when you look at, the different layers of immunity, your skin and your lining of your digestive tract is a primary physical barrier to a lot of, viruses, bacteria, in the outside world. And so if you have a weakened digestive tract, like you just mentioned, with all the medications, stress can impact that, previous infections, not getting good, healthy ingredients. What can happen is, that literally the lining of the digestive tract, much in the stomach, small intestine, large intestine, when that starts to weaken and break down, then you're opening the door for undigested proteins, viruses that are supposed to be inside the gut, but not inside your body, can start filtering their way into your bloodstream, into your body. And so that's where, the example I used at the beginning where like I had, the Lyme flare up, that Lyme may have been in my system. It may have been in my digestive tract, but it was being held at bay by my immune system. And then
started breaking down.
And so that started breaking down my digestion, or just, my overall, microbiome was broken down enough. And so I didn't have the strength of my immune system to keep it at bay. Now, all of a sudden you have this flare up, this viral flare up. And then again, when you have one of those, a lot of times, I was reading a book on Lyme when I started getting that. You can start to have all these co-infections then because, Lyme, just has such a massive systemic impact on your whole body. So it's the same idea. It's like you just have a systemic impact when your gut and microbiome is under stress. So taking care of that is so incredibly important. And a lot of these early signs, like you said, the brain fog, the energy level, the sleep. I mean, a lot of times people don't sleep well when they have poor digestion. Lack of sleep that leads to more energy issues and then more immune system
inflammation. I don't know if you noticed that. I don't know if you retain water as easily as I do, but it's like a couple days of clean eating and it's like, I feel like I can see my joints again. You don't feel as puffy and inflamed and
You look like you lost a lot of weight. I really see it in your face.
But it's true.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, and again, a lot of that is, it's either water being retained in the cell or in the interstitial fluid, between the cells. And it's just that water is there because of inflammation and trying to help circulate it, but it just gets trapped because your whole body is inflamed. And so it's not filtering it out. Once you get a handle on that, yeah, absolutely. After 2 days of, eating very cleanly, it's amazing that, the urination kicks up and you're just, kind of filtering that water at a much more efficient pace. Whereas before you just kind of get stuck. And again, you're addicted, right? You get addicted to the, poor eating habits and the foods that you're consuming. And so, we always talk about how, food is the socially acceptable addiction, right?
Yeah.
You're doing certain drugs or, alcohol, not necessarily socially acceptable, but, you could sit down and eat 3, 4, or 5 cookies in a sitting and no one's going to bust your chops about it. That's just very important to recognize that if you are having some of these early signs and symptoms of, energy level that you can't quite figure out, joint stiffness, especially in the morning. Sometimes a lot of people, that's one of, I would say one of the biggest symptoms that I hear from other of our patients. It's like, I just wake up and I feel like I'm just stiff and it takes me a while to get moving. Yeah. And again, we always go back to, is this an injury? Is this systemic inflammation? Or is this, did you just work out really hard?
Yeah, I was going to say, I also wake up feeling that way, but I know why. So, don't make me laugh at her.
Yeah. So, again, just having the healthcare practitioner on your team that's going to be able to guide you through some of that stuff. And if you do, have some of these energy issues, it's not just a matter of, we just did a podcast on the supplementation. It's not just you're going to, start taking a supplement and it's going to magically go away. You might have to really, take hold of what you're putting into your diet, your stress level, your sleeping, your exercise routine, to really help to heal that.
Yeah.
But the good news is your body has the ability to heal. And in fact, your gut lining, just like your skin cells, are some of the most rapidly, break down, dying off. It's called apoptosis, right? To, slough off, they die off, and then new ones in their place. So, every 30 days, you've got a brand new layer of skin. Same thing with the digestive tract. Yeah. The problem is when it's under stress, it's not turning over as regularly. So you can actually get, some inflamed, cells that are out of control. And that's where, again, you'll start to get into some of the digestive. You do your, colon cancer screening and, sure enough, they do the colonoscopy and, there's a polyp there. Oh, there's a polyp there. It's like, well, they're there because there's some sort of dysfunction going on in the actual digestive tract. And they can go in and clip them off before they become cancerous. That's great. But if you're not changing the system and the environment of why it got there in the first place, well, you're just going to keep getting more.
What's the definition of insanity?
That's right.
Repeating the same behavior over and over, expecting a different result.
That's absolutely right. So.
And again, it's we know it. Like we always say, it's simple, but it's not easy, and we know that it's our
based on my own experience.
Our society has made it incredibly difficult to be healthy, and it is. We're all kind of living in a uphill battle because again, even when you're trying to make the right choices, you got to look at air quality, water quality. All of these things, again, are affecting our entire system, including our gut. So, trying to do everything 100% it's difficult. But again, it's if you can get to the basis of, we were just talking about this in another one. It's like there is no one right diet for all of us or exercise regimen for all of us, because if there was, we would just all be doing it and everyone would look exactly the same, and we clearly don't. So, so it's about finding what's right for you. And, I said at the beginning about listening to your gut, and that's a good place to start. So even just doing some self-reflection, self-tracking food logs, I tell people all the time, jotting down what you eat, how you feel, after you eat that.
And not just not just directly after, but like within 24 hours.
Yeah.
You know? And so if you're feeling sluggish one day, what did I eat yesterday?
Yeah. That, do you feel bloated? Do you feel, do you feel like things are going through you too quickly? Are you feeling, like I said, tired, sluggish, achy, these are all important things that, if the more you track and pay attention, the more obvious it becomes. Like our gut really tells us if it likes something, or you eat something and throw it up, you're not going to eat another bite of it. I hope. I guess that's a whole nother.
I was going to say, unless it's really, really delicious.
But again, it's like that's our body. That's a very well-known way for our body to say, "Yep, something didn't sit right. I'm getting it out." But unfortunately, our bodies are giving us these signals maybe in less obvious ways on a daily basis, and people just ignore them. It's like, I'm constipated, that just happens, or I just kind of bloat when I, that's normal. But it's not normal to walk around feeling bloated and achy and and sluggish and tired.
It's common.
Yeah, it's common.
Well, and going back to what you said at the beginning with the connection between so many of the the hormones that are in the brain that stimulate certain happiness, satisfaction, pleasure, are also in the gut, and they have the same receptors, and so that that brain gut connection is so incredibly important. And so the same things that can stimulate that pleasure, and healthfulness in the brain, also stem from the gut, and
that's why fasting is one of. It is so powerful for both the gut, but also, about 48 hours in, they can consider that a dopamine reset. And that's where, if you can get through that 48 hours, which sometimes is difficult, it's, people are always like, how do you do that? I'm like, I feel great. What do you mean? How do I do it? It's like, it's, hours 24 to 48, I'm never a fan of, but if you can get past that 48 hours, you get this burst of energy. You get this mood boost. It's a really powerful thing, especially if you, you kind of feel yourself caught in this, rut, whether it's a physical rut or mental rut, or, it really helps kind of break through that.
And think about instances where you bring up fasting. Think about instances where, either you or a loved one has been like seriously ill in their life. Are they hungry? Not typically. They're lying, half dead on the couch or in the bed, and it's like they don't want to move. They don't want to, it's like. It's almost like a forced fasting because the body doesn't want. It's focusing on the healing. On the healing and the immune system, and that's the other thing that boosts. Very well documented when you go like you said, 24 to 72 hours, 1 to 3 days without food, and again we're talking like
nothing, no calories,
water, some salts. You can add some salts if you need it, but electrolytes. But 1 to 3 days without food. I mean, not just the the energy boost, but the immune reset that occurs during that time. And again, a lot of it is because of so much of what's going on in the gut. It's literally digesting the old garbage that's in there, and it's like we've got all this inflammatory stuff that we're not putting food in, so now we're just going to go start eating the and recycling the broken down stuff that's in the body. And
I couldn't believe that the day after Christmas, without fail, I was sick every year. I will say that's the one downside to when you eat really clean is when you don't. Like oh my gosh, it's like I felt like every single year. For probably the last 5 years, like right after the holidays, I'm sick. It's all the sugar, all the alcohol, being off the, I try to stay on my exercise routine as much as possible, but still more sitting around than I would usually do. This one happened. It was the day after Christmas, which was convenient. It was a Tuesday, so we were off, and I did not get out of bed. I could not get out of bed. I mean, I was laid out, didn't eat. I was actually planning on fasting that week anyway, so it kind of worked out.
Start.
And it ended up being day one of my fast. I chugged a ton of water, just again getting the fluids in. And I was dreading work on Wednesday. I was like, oh my gosh, like after laying in bed all day, I'm not gonna have the energy because that Wednesday was gonna be a crazy day.
Yeah.
I could not believe that I was able to get through that day. I mean, I still had a little bit of like, it was, a little bit of congestion left, but I literally thought it was going to be a challenge, but it's because I think I had that 24 hours of fasting in already and then continued to fast. I mean, by 2 days, I wouldn't have thought I was sick 2 days earlier. I mean, going from literally couldn't get out of bed to I felt totally fine, was back in the gym. I mean, it was, that was probably the quickest I've ever rebounded from something like that. And
it's incredible.
It's pretty incredible.
And I have had, I have been in arguments with other professionals about like fasting and, using it for weight loss. And it's like, I don't promote fasting for weight loss. Mm-mm. It's not, will you lose weight when you don't eat for 3 days? Yes, you will. Yeah, but that has nothing to do with your long-term weight loss. And, but it has everything to do with kind of doing the Control-Alt-Delete on your computer system. It's literally like, hey, we are refreshing. We're going to go shut off the circuit breaker and turn it back on. Like
IT 101, turn it on.
And it's amazing the systems and processes that are reset in your body when you do that. And I've read research that, I mean, if everyone fasted for like they may have pushed it a little bit longer. I think it was 7 to 11 days once a year. But like if you did a 3 to 5 day fast once a quarter, I think you would be amazed at the difference that you felt just giving your body a reset. And you do that in conjunction with eating healthy and your exercise routine. Man, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's something. If you're a current patient, on our salutogenic website, we have a lot more information about fasting specifically. I know we kind of got off, well, not really off topic, because I think fasting and gut health go so hand in hand, because the best way to stop messing up your gut is stop putting stuff in it. It's like, I mean, truly, it's it's really the easiest way. It's the purest form of elimination diet, right? It's like eliminate everything. And then the other thing, make sure you're drinking good quality water during that time, because I mean, if you're fasting and then drinking the Pittsburgh tap water, forget it. I mean, it's you really want to make sure you have a good filtration system or doing distilled. Again, if you're doing electrolytes, a good quality electrolyte that's straight electrolytes, not the Neos that have all the sugar
artificial
and crap and stuff in it.
You had a conversation with a patient a while back about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was like not realizing he was doing like insane amounts of caffeine. I didn't even realize how much caffeine was in those. He had the caffeinated ones.
Wow.
And he was doing them like all day. And when we calculated it up, I'm like, you're basically drinking like 8 cups of coffee throughout the day. Gosh. And plus the sugar, plus the added.
Because he wasn't sleeping, right?
Yeah. And I was like, stop taking that. And
surprise, I'm sleeping again.
Yeah. So just, just little things like that you don't think about. Again, eliminating some of that stuff, giving your body the time to do what, I think there's a book called Design to Heal. That sounds familiar. That's Dr. Dan's book for anyone who
for anyone who's not familiar with it.
Doesn't know. But yeah, it's really that, like, giving it that time. And it's hard. I know. I mean, I just did that 3-day fast. That was probably the longest I have fasted in a couple years. And, I do 24 hours. Yeah. Pretty easily.
Basically you stop eating at dinner time.
Yeah, it's pretty much dinner to the next dinner.
Yeah, it's not terrible.
Especially it's easy at a busy day at the office. That's nothing. But that is definitely the longest I've done. And I did 3. It ended up being like 80 some hours. It was 3 full days. Like I did not eat Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. I broke the fast Friday morning. So it was 3 full days of not eating. Yeah. And it was incredible how good I felt. I'm like, it's like, okay, conclusion. Food makes me feel terrible. So now I'm kind of sort of like you, less structured, but I'm sort of in that like trial and error trying to figure out like what does make me feel good, because the stuff that I've, kind of relied on in the past, I don't know if it's just because the quality of it has changed. Yeah. I'm sure that's part of it, or if it's just my body is, again, I'm, in my 30s now. So what worked for me in my 20s, it doesn't seem to be working the same. So
you just got to dial it in a little bit more.
Yeah, it's just kind of,
part of the elimination that I'm doing is, legumes. Like, they don't want me to
I cut those out years ago with that, when you recommended the paleo cardiologist book. I found that's a huge inflammatory one for me. My gut does not respond well to that, unfortunately, because I love beans.
I know, right? The Hispanic, tacos.
Yeah, I'll still.
Nachos.
It's funny. I'll treat myself to like a good black bean burger is like, to me now, is like a treat, which sounds silly. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are probably like, what? But again, when you don't have it, it's
tasty,
good.
Tasty.
But so it really just comes down to, again, being diligent, listening to your body, and then working with the health professionals and just really, committing to yourself and your health. And, it has to be a priority, because it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, we know it's.
Yeah. And again, at the end of the day, trying to come up with a good why behind, what you're doing. And, if it's just, hey, there's a difference between, hey, I want to get out of pain versus I want to be able to bend over and pick up my grandkids, or get on the floor with my grandkids.
Put my shoes on.
Put your shoes on.
Get dressed by yourself. Yeah. Not have to rely on the.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just it. It's like, what's the why behind, the change that you're going to commit to? And I will tell you, the whole, again, we're kind of at the beginning of the year and New Year's resolutions and all this stuff. It's like, I know the research says, 21 days to form a habit. No. It's probably a solid 90 days to actually instill a good, healthy routine that you are going to then continue beyond that. So, so if you have any questions, this was talked a lot about gut health. Again, a lot of the stuff we talked about is just good for overall health and well-being. If anything resonated with you, or if you have more questions about specific tests that maybe you could do because you're starting to, feel sluggish, or, joint pain, or, a number of different, ailments, and you think that something could be underlying that, your medical professional isn't asking about or doesn't have a clue about, maybe it's time to start looking deeper. So feel free to check out our website. As always, TuroFamilyChiropractic.com. And you can always reach out with specific questions to us. And I think that's about it. And we'll see you at the next one.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Check your gut. Talk soon.
You've been listening to What the Health with Dr. Dan and Angela Toro, brought to you by Toro Family Chiropractic. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show, or listen to past episodes, visit www.whatthehealth.world.